G'day, g'day.
Morning. Oh, one
I
sec.
joined the wrong meeting. Turns out the two meetings have different invites, like different
Uh,
links.
I often do that with the front end and TypeScript ones because they're right next to each other, and depending on which one
Mm,
I clicked on last, I just click that link. But there was a bit of discussion in the previous meeting.
mm, yep. Yeah, it's just trying to think, just trying to remember where the recordings go, because I wanted to read the transcript. Oh, I see.
Mm.
It's in that snippet. Um, I started having a read, but it's quite long. I think it would take like probably half the time to read through it. That's why we do that, the admin summary, I guess, or watch the recording.
It's just doing a summary of it now.
Nice.
I need to look at what the other summaries look like though to see if this summary matches.
Mm, yeah, I remember when I did the summary last time, I had to tweak it a little bit. Was trying to get it in a nice format
Mm.
to, and yeah, get the right tone and stuff. But yeah, I think like possibly because we have this process of like the auto transcript into the note summary, the actual like typed notes in the agenda doc like aren't as good.
Mm.
I had a read of those, but it was, I think, just fairly sparse is all.
That Riot Tech Debt article is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's good, right?
I'm super curious to know like how much testing they have in a complex game like that
Mm,
because like and where balance is like so important, so changing anything could throw out like game balance for a lot of people.
hmm. Yeah, I haven't really done much reading of their stuff, but I wonder if they probably talk about that as well. I bet
Mm.
in a blog post somewhere. Um, but yeah, I thought the way they measured debt was interesting. Because I think everyone has like a is pretty familiar with the triage metrics of like severity and impact, and we're all used to like estimating things. So they're two measurements. The first two measurements, like impact and fixed cost, are like pretty intuitive. But I'd never really thought about it in terms of contagion,
Mm.
which is something you get a feel for. I think when we talk about tech debt, we probably include it in the impact discussion if that happens. But I like the
Yeah.
idea of separating it out to like yeah, something like um the event handling for config is probably a good example where like at the if right at the start we had implemented something scalable like RxJS, um like at the beginning that had a really high contagion factor,
Mm.
so that pattern spread really rapidly out to like lots of different components. Um, and so like a fix at that point would have been really effective.
Mm.
And then now I'm like not so sure. I mean, it definitely still has high contagion factor in that. Um, like pretty much anything you do in those components that reads from the settings, which is like probably most features. Most new features are still reading stuff from the settings, or interacting with one of the services that does. It's still affected by the way it's been implemented and the fact that it doesn't have like push push updates or like filtering
Yeah.
with change detection and things like that. So um yeah, that's a good way of thinking of it. It's like that is a very high contagion factor piece of tech debt. And it's yeah, pretty much will just always like spread to
Mm.
whatever uses it. Yeah, no, it's good. I like it.
Oh yeah, they've got heaps of articles.
Yeah, I had a feeling that they might like if they went into such detail on this topic, um,
Mm.
they clearly have sort of an idea to like do that kind of technical outreach and write
Mm.
lots of blog posts. It was from a long time ago as well, 7 years. Um, yeah, I added a item like a suggestion for a piece of tech debt, which since then has been scheduled as a stretch goal for the milestone. Um, so I guess I'm less worried about trying to fit it into our tech debt. It's kind of not really tech debt anyway. I think personally think the end-to-end testing gaps are kind of a separate thing from tech debt, but
Mm.
like it, not saying they're not important. I think they're equally important, but they should be kind of scheduled and tackled differently. Ideally with ECT support
Mm.
if we can get it. So yeah, when I start working on that one, I'm going to be reaching out to Jay.
I wonder if there's any value in using a different label than tech debt for these issues that we vote on, and then we could apply it also to the main GitLab repo
Mm,
for anything that sits on that side. And then it's just more of a broader technical things that should be surfaced up, not just paying down debt.
yep. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Like, as a group, do we care more about tackling making sure the tech is tackled or widening the scope? Because the risk with widening the scope is we end up voting on stuff and then no tech issues make it in.
Mm,
Um,
true.
so I think there's still value in having it. Um, I think a simple fix would just be to tweak the label. So the monolith has a technical hyphen det label as well as technical space det.
Mm,
Um, and then in our projects we use tech hyphen det. So I think at least standardizing would help because then we can have a list with one label that finds all of them. The other probably easier solution is just to update the query. So it's includes any of the labels.
yeah.
Um, yeah. But yeah, it was confusing at first when I raised the issue in the monolith and then realized there was no way of getting it into the list. But I still think the monolith is the right place for the issue because it's adding something to the monolith pipeline. Um, there was also something kind of brewing in the back of my mind about like, should we like, yeah, is there actually value in having our own issues in our own projects? Or would it be better to have them in a monolith? Especially because we now have this habit of adding like square bracket VS Code.
Mm,
It kind of doesn't matter which project it's in.
mm,
And it does make it complex for things like this list or things like the adding like a comment template um, with the issue update and stuff. We also have like the category labels for all of the different editors. Um, so yeah, I don't know.
I do like the smaller projects for searching and just
Yeah,
kind of browsing through. I guess that could also be accomplished with labels.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It does make it kind of lighter for us. The Yeah, I guess the worry I have stems from like what I've seen a little bit with some of the backwards compatibility issues is that there is low visibility on what we're doing from outside of the team,
Mm,
especially the way that, I mean, this is a separate issue, but the way that the versioning works when you live outside of the monolith is
mm,
different and surprises people. But what I also see is like people raising issues in the monolith again, like for stuff in the extensions
mm,
that's duplicated already, or yeah, I don't know. It's complex. But probably a big pro point to having stuff in our repos is that we have like the templates that are set up just for us,
mm.
and that's like the default template. So that's pretty nice. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't, if people were raising bugs in the monolith, they probably wouldn't like know to select the VS Code extension template or whatever that asks like for all of the versions and the logs and things.
Mm,
So yeah, I don't know, just something I've been thinking about.
yeah. Um, so we got one comment on the release officer rotation suggestion
Mm.
there. Usually PMs, EMs from other teams ask for releases, will they see? So
Oh
how
yeah.
is that not visible for others?
Uh, it would only be visible to maintainers of the project, except like I think I didn't communicate what I meant very well, which was that we would use their rotation to decide who the officer was, but it would still get published on the planning issue.
Mhm.
Um, and we would still have to select like a shadow. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, my it was just to take the like to make the rotation selection fair
Mhm.
to because it would just literally rotate through the whole group.
Mhm.
Um, and
Yeah,
it's
makes
dog
sense.
and it's dog fooding a feature, which is always good. But
That's interesting
yeah,
that it is only available to maintainers. Do you think that's to stop people getting constantly pinged when they're on rotation?
um, maybe yeah. I'm actually just trying to think back because I was on the team that implemented that,
Mhm.
which is why I know about it, and probably no one else knows about it because it wasn't like a free. I think it's actually a really good feature, but it wasn't like that. Plus the escalation policies is they work really well together. So you can
Mhm.
say, and yeah, we could even potentially do this ourselves, but yeah, you can say like if an issue gets raised, ping the person who's on call, or
Mhm.
if it's yeah, it's kind of designed more for like the
Mhm.
um metrics integration. So it's like if this metric goes into the red zone, raise an incident and assign the person who's on call, that sort
Mhm.
of thing. Um,
That's pretty cool.
but you can hook it up to external things, and you could have a you could set up a metrics endpoint to just accept like any random data. So in theory, you could have a script, like you could set up a hook that does it, pings the person like for any particular reason,
Mhm.
as long as you can write a hook for it. But yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why it's not visible to people outside of the maintainers. I
Mhm.
guess because the next step down is reporter, and at least in GitLab, that includes people outside of the company. Um, so maybe that was the reason that,
Mhm.
especially also like for open source projects, you wouldn't want the you wouldn't want the that list to necessarily be public.
Right.
Um, yeah, maybe there's some security stuff there as well, but it is kind of frustrating. Like you could yeah, like you'd almost want it to be configurable, I guess.
Mhm.
Like in our case, for something like this, even configurable per rotation or per policy. So you could say, yeah, this is a public policy, like it could work in with something like a status page where it's like, if there's an issue, tag this person or whatever, and it links to the rotation, the current rotation. Um, but yeah, the the team was only we were only working on that for like 6 months.
Right.
So it's very early stages
Mhm.
in terms of functionality. I think the long-term plan was like to build out build out enough features for some of the big players in the industry and in the monitoring and incident response. Like some of those companies have like quite a lot of features there. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, we just weren't able to. It was just like not enough resource, I guess, to implement that in the time given.
Yep.
But yeah, it's when we worked on it, like a lot of other like random teams in the company started dogfooding it just for like non on-call stuff.
Mhm.
So that was cool to see, and I always thought like it might be a good fit for this, for deciding. But yeah, I'll just respond to Thomas. Yeah. I was thinking we would still publish on the planning issue. It's just to us figure out who is next. Cool. Yeah, there's one from Angela about building the web views in parallel. I have to shoot off at 11, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Sweet. Yeah, I mean, that seems like a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, one from Angela about we should write more integration tests. I definitely agree. Especially because those are the only tests that run on different platforms.
Mhm.
I think he's talking about the language server there. We should be able to know that the language server is ready from John. Yeah, that's a good point. I saw that raised by the workflow team, I think. And it's something that I've thought about when we were fixing a bug in the code suggestion status. There's kind of like an initialize loop and some change handlers. And there was a bug where it would like start initializing and the value was still changing while it went through like the init function.
Mhm.
And then because that was before the listeners were set up, those changes wouldn't get reflected. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it did make me think like, oh, it would be good if there was like an overall kind of ready function. It is harder than you'd think at first glance though, because there's going to be probably some long running things going on there that you don't want to wait for.
Yeah.
So I guess you have to define ready as like ready to accept messages and stuff, and maybe not
Mhm.
ready as in the state has settled,
Mhm.
because I think that is a longer life cycle time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, repository
but
service is the easy example there because that runs for quite a while.
exactly, yeah, yeah, and I guess the other thing is like there's probably gaps in the service, the way the services have been written, where like just like that um, code suggestion status, where it there might be a simple refactor to make it available to accept messages sooner. Um, Instead of like say repository service like waiting until it's figured everything out before it can accept like config changes, like build in the mechanism that can handle those cases.
Mhm.
Because yeah, I imagine if you did something like halfway through that, if you changed the project or the user or like the token or something, like things might break.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't think you can I don't think you necessarily want to design for every case there, but um some kind of like ready notification for each service could be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, the node migration, I definitely think we should, yeah, prioritize that. I don't know how we get it into the milestone, except just making lots of noise about it. Because there's at least two issues there. There's the VS Code and language server, and also the other extensions presumably using Node. Might not be the case, but I think like JetBrains uses Node because there's like view code in there and stuff. Um, yeah. So there are a few interlocking parts because like the packager that we use only supports Node 18. Um, the thing that creates the binaries in the
Mhm.
language server. So we need to migrate that process. That's the main blocker for the language server.
Mhm.
If you have any experience with that, like packaging binaries in Node, that would be super helpful
I
to
did
take a
did
look
it
at that.
I did it recently with Bun, but that
Oh
was
yeah, cool.
using Bun itself.
Mm,
And it was like basically just enabling a flag, so it wasn't killer hard.
maybe we should migrate to Bun. But
Yeah, I think that would be a bit of a mission.
yeah, it's not compatible with the Node APIs, right? So
Heaps of stuff doesn't work. I was trying to get a tree setter working in it, and
mm,
it was just a mission.
yeah. Um, and yeah, the package discussion, which I think had its own meeting, did it? Or maybe that was cancelled.
Like there
Um,
was a meeting.
but yeah, the I need to catch up on the latest for that. Um, I'm not sure what's going on there and what the plan is, but there was some talk about using npm packages, and I didn't know that they weren't npm packages, so that was news to me.
I think possibly the discussion was that Yarn workspaces are maybe more feature rich than npm packages,
Mm,
like npm workspaces.
I don't.
Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know what was specifically being talked about.
Mm, interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like that our package setup is quite simple and doesn't do too much fancy stuff. Um,
Yeah.
Particularly like the build, like keeping a single build that just builds all packages in one go. Like having packages build
Yeah.
themselves and all the nice caching and everything is cool, but man, does it get complicated sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I sort of don't know if things are being copied into the VS Code extension properly or not.
Mm.
There's been cases where it's been behaving weirdly there. Um,
Mm.
I'm going to shoot off now. But
Sweet.
yeah, thanks for the chat. That was good. Thanks for doing the admin. Sounds like Lena's going to do it next time. So
Yep. Yeah, it was pretty smooth. That admin work issue really goes through it pretty thoroughly.
that's good. Yeah, the snippet. Yeah, cool.
All
Well,
right.
I'll catch you later.
Sweet.
See
See
ya.
ya.